the most uncomfortable situation a nice guy has put you in? Story 1. A nice guy took my suitcase from me as I was walking down the stairs under the pretext of helping. He wouldn't give it back to me, instead saying he would help take it to my bus. I kept telling him I was fine, he could give it back, I got it from here, but no. Of course he sat me in, holding my suitcase in the aisle as I was forced to take the window seat. He kept telling me he could get me booze. I was underage and didn't give a. I just wanted to go home. I even tried getting off a stop or 2 or 3 early, but he insisted we take the bus to where he parked his car so he could drive me. I was terrified. Luckily I texted my uncle who met us at the end of the bus line, Air Force guy. The nice guy couldn't give me my suitcase fast enough. Edit getting a lot of the same questions, so I'm going to answer them here. Why didn't you say something, scream or make a scene? I was a teen, didn't know better. I do now, and if it happened to me today, I would do anything I had to in GTFO. This isn't a nice guy. This is a rapist pedophile. Yeah, agreed. Maybe this story does belong in a different thread. He kept repeating how nice he was carrying my suitcase for years afterward. I told myself maybe I was overreacting and just trying to be helpful. And TBH, when I posted this, I still thought he was just a creepy guy who was overly helpful, but after all your reactions, wow, it's made me rethink this memory a lot. Back then, my biggest fear was that he was going to make me miss my flight. Now I'm realizing just how bad things could have been if my uncle hadn't come to pick me up. Thanks, Reddit. Story 2. I was trying to leave a frat party and the 2 guys guarding the closet claimed it was house rule that a girl has to give them her number to get their coats. This was not a place I was familiar with, and it was a narrow hallways tucked out of the way from the rest of the party. They were larger than me, drunk AF, and kept trying to sweet talk me into staying upstairs with them instead because they're so nice. Since they had been so nice to make sure no one stole our things at the party, we had to pay them back. One guy even said I could just flash him instead. I gave them my number, and when a guy started to text me, I only responded with Spider-Man memes until he gave up. Literally never saw them again. Edit. I was drunk, it was late, the party sucked and just wanted to go home. I felt cornered. My purse with my room key, phone and wallet were in the closet, as was my jacket, and it was 35F out, and had also never been in the situation where a guy asked for my number wouldn't take a no. I'm older and I know better now, as this was years ago. Bonus. I also received my first ever pic from this guy, and my response of my, "That's cute," was our last interaction over text. I'm still not sure which of the 2 young men I was actually talking to. Story 3. Last semester of college, I had a class with this weird and obviously desperate, but super awkward and negative guy. He acted really fake to boot. He always tried talking to me, but his intentions were super obvious. AK women are not human. They are this elusive thing and I need to catch one of them one day. I ran into the guy at the college shuttle. He said hi to me, and I did respond with a simple hi. I didn't really know him, so I left it at that. He sat behind me, and starts audibly and angrily muttering to himself about how girls don't pay attention to him and that he just tries and tries so hard yada yada yada, that he's being nice, but they're just etc. It was so uncomfortable and he kept bitching the whole time. I wasn't physically reacting. OFC. Story 4. The guy was probably around not only when the dinosaurs were born but when dirt became a thing. He was super nice and calm, but no was not an answer for him. Let me walk you to your car. I didn't drive. You shouldn't walk alone. There's some crazy people out there. I'm waiting for a friend. I can walk you to their car. We're actually going to the restaurant. They're 5 steps away, and no, not really to any of this, but I don't do strangers walking me to my car, especially this guy who insists on it. Come on, I can walk you to your car, and if anyone tries to stop you, I've got a 12 gauge in my truck. I've used it on so many people before. I'm not going out to my car. I'm waiting for a friend. I know how handcuffs are used as well. I don't care. Leave me alone. Don't you want to know? Not really. You use the cuffs on the feet, rope to tie the hands up and then hang people. I've done that once or twice. My friend just went in the restaurant. Goodbye. Guy uses other entrance of the restaurant to come in and stand behind me as I'm telling host about the situation. Him and another big dude walk me to my car after oldie leaves. I drove home with 911 typed in the phone. I also didn't drive home immediately because someone followed me. I quickly turned off and drove to a public lit, turned off all lights and sat on Tunnel. The car drove past. Then I waited, doors locked for 10 minutes in pitch dark before driving home, intentionally going in circles on the way. Edit for those saying he's a rapist or serial killer etc. Close but no cigar. Saw the guy's face in the news a few weeks after this. He was picked up on human trafficking charges. Always listen when your gut says no. Story 5. I was at a party when nice guy shows up. He's an old friend of the host who's known for being nice on paper but a complete misogynistic IRL. I tried to keep my distance from him as ID had scary run-ins with him before when he was drunk. He noticed my avoidance and would not leave me alone, so when he took off to in the bushes, I quickly went inside to the spare bedroom and shut the door behind me so I could have a minute to breathe. Not even 5 minutes later, the door swings wide open. Hey buddy, I was looking for you. He comes in and latches the door shut behind him. Stomach sinks, then sits down behind me and starts aggressively rubbing my shoulders. Why are your shoulders so tense, buddy? After a beat, I stand up and say, dude, this is super creepy. I'm out. He responds, massages are creepy to you. No wonder you're single. I don't know what needs to happen to a person to make them this oblivious to their own fuckery. Story 6. Let me sleep over because I lived an hour away and we'd been drinking. And he pulls the old, you're really lucky I'm a nice guy. Most guys would force themselves on you right now, but I don't because I'm nice. You're really lucky. Despite us having been normal platonic friends for a few months before this. and me having established a few times that I wasn't interested in anything else with him. Story 7 wouldn't leave me alone while I was working. Kept saying it was a shame I had a boyfriend because you're so pretty and I'd treat you right. Overtipped like, way too much because you're so beautiful. I work at a busy music venue, so he basically had to yell all of this at me while I was helping 100 other customers. I eventually had to tell him to buzz off, which just meant he stared at me all night from the crowd, waving at me. After the lights went up he came over and launched into his "it's a shame you have a boyfriend" bit, so I gave him some shitty excuse and booked it. Why come to a show if you're just going to creep on someone while she's working? Dudes creep on me sometimes, but never as a self-described better than your boyfriend guy. Story 8 He was my coworker, and 20 years older than me. I know some people might go for that, but it personally weirds me out anyway. He started harassing me. He would call at odd hours. I think he was masturbating. He left me racy pictures in my box at work, gave me presents, so I reported him, and he got a little slap on the wrist. But next time he saw me, he started rubbing my shoulders and I told him to stop, not to touch me. He blew up, started screaming at me, in front of all the customers. After that though, he left me alone. Should have been fired, but at least he left me alone. But unfortunately, I'm pretty sure he chose another woman to harass in my place. Good thing is he's on disability now, out of the workforce for good. Story 9 First boyfriend at socially awkward 16. Total asshat who wanted a girl to be a total virgin and innocent but also know how to be a total dirty sub. I was just innocent AF. This guy wanted stuff to happen between us but didn't want to initiate. I was so not tuned into stuff and he obviously didn't realize I needed to be hand-led through this. He would hint things to me but they would just fly over my head. Like I went to South America to visit family and I was online talking to him and he said a girl made him an offer. I to this day have no clue what he meant. He never said what she offered him. 16-year-old me was like, what? He then decided to attack me for not giving him a BJ the minute I met him. He started the rant off with guys in my class have done stuff with girls, and I finally clicked and lost it on him. The only thing I got from that relationship was a backbone. Story 10 Met a guy at a gathering at a mutual friend's place and ended up getting stuck talking to him all night. Night ends and I don't give it another thought. Couple weeks later he calls my house. I didn't give him my last name or phone number. Since he now has my number, he also knows my address and starts showing up at my house at weird times, sometimes with his equally creepy sister. Fast forward a few years. I haven't lived at home for at least a year. He shows up, Dad answers the door and just tells him I'm not in, not that I don't live there or anything. Later that same night, Dad lets the dog out for a pee before bed. Dog disappears into the backyard, chasing something she really wants to catch, thinks it's a skunk or something until he hears the gate on the neighbor's fence open and close quickly. Dog has chased a person out of the backyard. My old bedroom window faced our backyard. We don't know for sure, but I think my dog chased that creep out of our yard. You Adam, some utter creep at work posing as a nice guy don't they all, once asked me to join him and 3 other employees for drinks at a restaurant right up the street from my house. I liked the other 3 people who were attending so I met them all and had a beer there before heading home. This left immediately as soon as I did just so that he could tell everyone at work that Head followed me home and we slept together. Unfortunately, I had just started dating a huge crush of mine who also worked there. We were dating incognito because he was hourly and I was a director, and that kind of interaction was frowned upon and I wasn't about to let some bullshit rumor started by this gross piece of ruin a good thing, so I went straight to HR and reported his for harassment. He was gone by the next day. Apparently some people are confused so I'm clarifying that he did, in fact, spread the rumor. He worked earlier than I did so by the time I arrived at 9 a.m., he had already told people Head gone home with me and we'd slept together. Oh and my so wasn't my subordinate, he worked in another department altogether. Hope that clears things up. I considered him a friend, stayed at his apartment when visiting his town. He slept in the living room, I in the bedroom. When it got late, he started making jokes about how he had hidden the bedroom key and that I should get ready for him. I spent the night half awake and fully dressed from sheer fear. In the morning, I packed and wanted to leave, but he wouldn't let me go without having a goodbye kiss. He physically blocked the door so I couldn't get out. I tried to play it off and somehow managed to squeeze by him without getting kissed, but it was a terrifying experience, and that was the end of our friendship. Story 11 I'm a person with some serious issues from my past that I'm trying to work through, but my current headspace isn't fit for a good relationship. The above is something I tell most people when I'm laying the ground rules of my side of a FWB or something of that sort. I begrudgingly went on a date with a nice guy who started off by berating me for dating with an unhealthy mindset and started asking me over and over if I was raped assaulted in the middle of a crowded bar restaurant scene. Cue me leaving as quickly as I humanly could, only after telling him that it wasn't going to work out. The next day, he turns up to my workplace and makes himself a nuisance outside by constantly asking passersby to ask me to come out of the office. This went on for a while until I left the building and he handed me a proposal of the things he Googled about what he thought my issues were and how I could fix them, as well as a bunch of nonsense on how he and I could start a relationship. All throughout, he kept calling me a broken individual, used patronizing language, refused to listen to anything I said, accused me of trying to make things difficult and causing a scene. I decided that politeness wasn't for him and took a protection order from him, and he then spent months trying to convince our mutual acquaintances that I was a drama queen with severe psych problems. Story 12 I was on a Discord server and spoke in voice chat frequently. One time this dude came in and didn't speak, only in text chat. He kept putting himself down for attention, so I told him that he shouldn't worry blah 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 just to be polite and try to get him to stop. This went on for quite a bit, and I think he may have taken that politeness as something more. I had already told most people on the server that I don't swing that way, and he got all down about it and literally complained to everyone on that server that he has a crush but she hates him. Fast forward an hour or so and he PMs me saying that it's actually me that he likes. I told him that I didn't like him back and that I was gay, but then he threatened to kill himself, so I told him to stop being so manipulative and to pull himself together. Story 13. We were friends until one day on Valentine's Day he brought out his guitar and sang to me in front of a crowd and ended up asking me to be his girlfriend. I had a boyfriend of 2 years, so I had to say no to him in front of all those people. Thing is, I had mentioned my boyfriend in almost every conversation, and he still looked completely shocked that day when I told him I had a boyfriend. He was the nicest guy and I really appreciated our friendship. We stopped talking after that day though. I felt terrible. Story 14. We were friends. One day, he decided to surprise me at my house so we could watch Jessica Jones together. Except, I was out doing volunteer stuff that day, so I wasn't home. He thought it would be romantic or something if he waited for me, outside my house, for like 5 hours. When I got back, it was like 8 and dark already. I asked him what he was doing there and he said I was waiting for you so we could watch Jessica Jones. So we sat there for like 45 minutes watching an episode even worse. The one with the Luke Cage scene too, in absolute silence. It was so painful. Afterwards, he was just like, I'm gonna go home now. I felt bad for him, and this probably isn't nice guy material, but it was so incredibly uncomfortable. Story 15. I was like 19 and working third shift at a gas station, casually sweeping the floor. The door opens and I hear that ding, so I look up and make eye contact with some guy. I can't explain what was going on in this guy's head, but it was like he thought it was some kind of slow mo movie situation, and he staggered back, gasping, and widening his eyes and staring at me. I'm not the kind of person to notice this kind of stuff in other people. I felt like I was reading a scene from Twilight in my head. I went behind the checkout counter. He grabbed his Red Bull or whatever. He kept obviously looking at me in shock and shaking his head like he was trying to psych himself up for something. Ladies, you know that feeling when you know someone wants to catch your attention and talk to you but you're trying to keep it casual. This went on for like 20 minutes and I couldn't accomplish anything because I'm waiting for this dude to check out. Anyway, so he walks up to the checkout super dramatically. I check him out. He stares the whole time and finally sighs, saying, I never expected to see such a beautiful woman at a gas station. This is fate. You shouldn't be working here. I just can't help myself. I have to ask you to go out with me. I said sorry, I have a boyfriend. He seriously looked enraged. He clenched his fists and gave me this overly dramatic scary look, grabbed his stuff, and stormed out the door. He moved his car so the bright headlights were facing the front of the store and sat there until the next customer came, probably an hour later. Honestly, I wasn't too scared. It was just like, really, I just wanted to finish my list of duties at this crappy gas station and live my life. But some Joe concocted a bizarre dream scenario in his head and somehow that was my fault. Story 16. I've got a weird one. A good buddy of mine was moving across the country, had known him for a while, and while he's very gay, and am not, we were still pretty close friends. He had his going away party, a very gay bar here in Austin. No big, I'm comfortable in my heterosexuality. He'll go and have a few drinks, dance a little and go home with my girlfriend who went to the party with me. Well, we get there, and about 20 minutes in, she gets a text that her friend's sister had been in a bad car accident, so she leaves to go help her friend. I decide I'll stay for another hour or so before heading home. I'm at the bar having a drink and I start to feel tired, so I'm going to go outside and call an Uber. As I'm outside, one guy from the party group, but who I didn't know at all, asked what was going on, and I told him I was leaving. He was like, dude, I live right by you, I'll drop you off. I didn't think about it at the time but would have no clue where I lived because we barely had been introduced at the party. I get in his car, and as we turn the corner, he puts his hand on my leg. I kinda snap out of it, and say, you know what man, I'm uncomfortable here, why don't you let me out of the car? I get the whole nah bro, it'll get you home safe, it's fine. And won't stop, doesn't pull over, comes up to a stoplight. I try to open the door, and the door won't open, he won't look at me, and by this point, I'm saying very forcibly to let me go. I normally conceal carry, but not this night since I was in a bar and I was drinking, both illegal to carry a gun while doing so. After a few more lights and silence where I realize that he's taking me somewhere against my will, I realize that I have a window breaker on my keychain. It's one of those combo thingies that can cut a seatbelt and break a window if your car is underwater. So I pull it out, and immediately break the passenger side window at the next light, and try to start crawling out. Luckily, there were like 8 people that saw it happen and came running over. He still wouldn't unlock the door. When he saw them running over to help, he opened the door and pushed me out and sped off. He was in a stolen car, and no one knew him at the party. He had just started associating with our group early on, and I thought he was part of the party. It was scary. Story 17. Nice guy from college. We're talking trench coat and fedora, fingerless gloves, pathetically sleazy smile, the whole shebang, in a tropical country at that, who kept trying to talk to me even as I was clearly trying to do my homework. Now, I was okay with multitasking. I could do homework and listen and respond to him, but he wouldn't have it. Hey Tuna, you know what, I really hate it when women, yes, not people, women specifically, ignore me. I was dumbfounded but also really offended, so I shot back that I was listening to him. Even if I wasn't looking at him, no, but when I'm talking to someone I want them to look at me. Friend overheard this and went off on him faster than I did. He left me alone after that. Not as terrible as the other answers here, but that was my first real taste of it. Story 18. He was considered one of the nicest guys in high school, was super bubbly and kind to everyone, loved to help people out and give people hugs. Everyone compared him to a teddy bear, because we were in almost all the same classes. We would chat on the phone about homework and projects. Then we started to become friends and would chat about things like our goals after high school, life, our families and other teenage bullshit. Slowly, things started to change and he started to show more of a dark and controlling side. He confessed that he liked me one night at my house and I told him that I didn't feel the same way. He kept pressing me on why, accusing me of being shallow. I told him again and again that I didn't think we had chemistry, but he kept with the accusations until I forcibly asked him to leave. As he was standing at my door putting on his shoes, he looked at me and said, "I wonder what it's like," and I responded, "What's like?" and he said, "To kiss you." He then grabbed me by the arms and pulled me in slowly, while the whole time I was saying no, I don't think this is a good idea, and struggled to pull away, but his grip was too strong and finally he forcibly kissed me. Honestly, for someone who claimed to be my best friend, it was a complete destruction of trust, and I still feel disgust and sad when I think about it, and this is just one of the many things that happened where he exerted power over me before I cut him out of my life. Sigh. TLDR, high school's nicest teddy bear became one of my closest friends and then used our friendship to grab me by the arms and forcibly kiss me among other things. Edit, longtime lurker, first time comment, and I'm sad this is one. Story 19. I'm a guy. I had a close female friend years ago who was super friendly and outgoing. We easily became friends because we had a lot in common, but I never liked her in that way and vice versa. However, her outgoing and friendly personality would often attract the nice guys. She was telling me about this guy who she was sort of friends with, who offered to take her shopping one day when she said she needed new shoes. Being polite and friendly, she went with him, but then he insisted on paying for her shoes, which were $200, because he was a nice guy. Then he asked if it was okay for them to drop by his house on their way to her house. When they got there, his mother apparently made a big deal about my friend and left the two of them alone in the house, assuming they were boyfriend and girlfriend. During this time, apparently the guy was grinning sheepishly and taking in all the praise. She had to set him straight after that, but he'd get annoyed and harass her about stupid stuff like hanging out with other guy friends, etc. I think eventually he got the message, but I thought the story was worth sharing. Story 20. There was a guy in high school who had a crush on me. He was never shy about it, and from day one he made me feel really uncomfortable. He'd ask me out multiple times a day, always in front of my friends who didn't help because they'd always egg me on to go out with him. I was the new kid in school and they'd all been friends with him since elementary school. When I kept saying no, he assumed it was because I was seeing someone else, so he started telling people I was sleeping with random guys in school. I wasn't. I had no interest in dating any of the boys I went to high school with. Anytime I tried to tell him to stop doing that, he and anyone else around for that matter said he was just joking and I needed to lighten up. It all came to a head at the homecoming dance my junior year. He was a senior, so it was his last homecoming. Apparently, the day before homecoming he told one of my friends that had asked me to the dance and I said yes. He had not asked me. I never had any intention of going to the dance. He kept going on to my friend about how special he wanted it to be, that he spent all his money on tickets, gas, new shoes and a corsage. My friend was so excited for him that she went over to his house the day of homecoming and helped him get everything ready. She also told all our friends what was going on, so everyone was under the impression I was going to the dance with him. Let me also add, no one checked with me that I was going to the dance, so this was all going on without my knowledge. He told everyone that I was going to get dropped off by my parents, so he and all my friends waited outside for me. They waited for 3 hours. Apparently anytime my friends told him to come inside and that I wasn't coming, he'd start tearing up and say, "Just 5 more minutes." So of course I show up to school on Monday and everyone was furious at me. None of my friends wanted to talk to me. I sat alone at lunch for 3 days completely confused about what was going on before some girl I'd never talked to before asked me why I'd stood this guy up. So I went up to the guy when he was alone, asked what the head done, and he just started laughing hysterically and said, "If you agree to go out with me, I'll tell everyone it was just a misunderstanding." Never talked to the guy again. It permanently damaged my friendships with several people, because they thought I was a massive to this guy who they thought was really sweet. Story 21. I went on one date with a guy I had met online after a year of talking. After the date I didn't think it would be going anywhere. He had exaggerated what he looked like, LMAO, and after I told him this and we stopped talking, he rang 6 florists in my area to send me a dozen red roses. The worst thing about it, I had never told him where I lived. He had used my location on the Snapchat map for the estate that I lived in. When confronted about the roses, he sent me a full-length song that he had written about me and our one date. I was traumatized. Story 22. I was at a friend's house when their friend shows up. He keeps saying he wants to go to an amusement park, but he has nobody to go with, heavily hinting towards me. My friend suggests the guy take me, and I tell him I'm too broke to go. He offers to pay, and I say no a few times. He insists more, so I say okay, if you insist. But this is not a date and we are just going as friends. He says okay and he understands. He did not. The way there, he kept telling me how beautiful I was and trying to hold my hand. I continued to tell him I said we were going as friends, and he said of course, but when we got there and were waiting in lines for rides, he kept trying to kiss me and hold my hand. I turned my head away how many times, and I slapped his hand away, and he continued to persist. Eventually, I just pretended not to feel good and he took me home. The guy tried to message me on Facebook the next day, asking me out on a date. I told him I was not interested in dating him, as I had explained before. We could be friends though. He then called me a and everything else before blocking me. Good riddance. Story 23. Nice guy just back from a tour of service in some foreign land he can't disclose due to mission secrecy. Cried to my mom about seeing his friends killed in action the first time he meets her. All lies. Dude wore fake dog tags. Ugh, the whole thing was so cringy in hindsight, but a total nice guy to a young naive me. So I told him off and stopped answering his calls. Naturally he shows up at my work, starts sobbing loudly in the middle of the bookstore I worked at while explaining that he had to lie about the army because he's in witness protection due to him testifying against a mob guy he had gotten a gambling debt with, and begging me to take him back. Customers and co-workers alike overheard everything. My boss had to 86 him, and my mom had to change our phone number, really a bummer too because he had a magnificent. Story 24. I was at a party with my new classmates, probably 60 people in one house not made for 60 people. The party dwindles down to about 20 early on as we had class the next day, but a good group of people were willing to stick around, drink and get to know one another. A nice guy was getting orders so we could make a beer run and I agreed to help. Originally it was myself and 2 other girls and 2 boys going. I don't know what happened but nice guy had changed it around a bit and now I was the only girl going, which I didn't notice till we were in the parking garage, me alone with 3 guys. To paint a picture, him, 5'5". Not strong and don't know any defense anything, walking through a garage with 3 burly dudes who sling truss and stage for a regular Wednesday. All have been drinking but not drunk. Nice guy says something to the effect of, "Wow, you're pretty dumb. There's 3 of us and 1 of you. Guys could have a lot of fun with that," and looks at the other 2 guys for approval of his plan. I went white. I don't know any of these guys from Adam and I have completely effed myself open to attack here. Thank God the driver bulliest of the burly dudes looks at him and looks at me and says, "Did you just try and get us to agree to attack her?" What the dude? Get away from her, and if I see you around her or alone with a girl again you'll be blood. The other guy with us, who also looked appropriately horrified at nice guy's suggestion, agreed and said he'd be happy to call his girlfriend to come down here and walk me back to the party. Turns out that not all nice guys look nice and not everyone who looks and acts like a nice guy is a nice guy. Married and made babies with the driver of that LCBO run BTW. He's a very nice good guy. Edit to add, nice guy got blocked the entire school year until he dropped out. Had a very difficult, traumatic ending to a long-term, live-in engagement. He went to jail. I decided to go to Europe to backpack for the summer. Best friend M agreed to come along, and was very aware this was a post-breakup getaway, to clear my head and have fun. He flew out ahead of me to visit family. I arrived at the airport to see him waiting for me in Europe on bended knee, ring and flowers and all. I was furious, and that friendship was destroyed. Vacation was equal parts horrendously awkward and tense, and amazing, but ended with him drunkenly ranting about it all again in a hostel one night, ultimately becoming and physically aggressive toward me, and a group of stranger hostel bunkies helping to quietly pack my stuff while he was finally passed out, and get me to the airport and home immediately. I haven't seen him since, about 8 years now. Story 25. I was set up with a friend of a friend who was a nice guy when I was in high school. I was 16, he was 20. We hung out a few times and talked about our interests. Nothing crazy and definitely nothing. At the end of our last hangout, we took a walk and he asked if we could hold hands. Innocent enough, right? I already knew I wasn't into him, but I didn't see the harm in just holding hands. Apparently I was wrong. Being that I was his words, not mine, I instinctively laced my fingers with his instead of cupped them when we held hands. That's what lovers do. How could I lead him on like that? What a... He then proceeded to go full crazy and blast me all over social media, MySpace, of course, and even wrote a series of poems about it. But not sappy, sorrowful prose. I ended up being murdered in most of them. I wish I were exaggerating or being dramatic, but I just got as far away from him as humanly possible, all over holding hands the wrong way. Seriously, who cups their hands when holding hands anyway? Makes a tiny sweat pool that you have to carry around. No thank you. Story 26. Met a nice guy over OKC a couple years ago. I gave him my number after we chatted for a bit and talked about possibly meeting. When he suggested we meet at a local elementary school in the middle of the night, I noped the out and told him it was nice talking to him but I didn't want to meet anymore. He kept trying to convince me by saying he would buy me gifts. He really likes me and thinks we could hit it off. When I told him no, he blew up and called me the usual. He tells me that I now owe him 15 because he had already bought me a present for our first date and that I needed to meet him right now to give him his money. Or I could meet him and have a good time and forget about all of this. Blocked his number right away and didn't hear from him until the next day when he calls me from a different number. When I picked up, he acted pleasant and asked me what time we were going to meet today for our date. I told him to off and blocked him again. Then I get a text a couple hours later from another phone number saying that if I don't meet him, he was going to kill himself. After a bit of unnecessarily dramatic conversation, I basically told him that I didn't care if he killed himself. He was psychotic and needed to leave me alone. I blocked him and forgot about it. Fast forward to about 6 months ago when I got a text from an unknown number. I knew exactly who it was when I read the text. I have 20 and a fun night planned for us. Want to meet sometime soon, miss you, blocked it, changed my number, never giving it out to a stranger again.